I guess they was upset with the Microsoft conversation. I don't know.
No,
But
we didn't. We spent 2 hours dogging Microsoft. That can't be right.
right, what the world? I don't know what happened. Hopefully they see we back up. Yeah, they took us down. Wow. So I don't know. I don't know what that was. Yeah, they took us down, man.
Man, we got a packed house too.
Yeah, we was packed. I don't know what's going on. I think somebody hating on us, man. Somebody had struck us or something because I don't know what we did. I feel attacked because Microsoft still owns Killer Instinct. Such defeated things on Xbox. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what that was. So, hopefully we are back up. Okay, so people are jumping back in. Welcome back, welcome back. I don't know what happened. I don't know what's up, but we are back. Seems like we got struck down or something. But we give a little time to get back in there. So K-Bum was talking, and hopefully the chat room builds back up. I'm going to try to find the new link because sometimes I don't know what happened, Nia. I don't know what's going on. It's just one of them nights. I don't know. This is strange. We didn't post anything crazy. We didn't say anything crazy. Fred said, "Dang, Phil."
Phil is offended.
So okay, so no. So anyway, so K-Bum, you were saying Nintendo. You say innovation. You believe it's Nintendo. Go ahead and finish what you were saying.
No, it's not even. It's no point of discussion. What I said was Nintendo innovates. Sony looks at what people do, learn it, and just tries to do whatever they did but better. That's
Okay.
Sony. But that's also not innovation. Innovation is taking a leap. Is jumping out there and doing it. Sony does a lot of looking what everybody else does and say, you know what, that's cool. We can do that too. I would like to do that. So a lot of the stuff that Sony has is all imitation of someone else, and sometimes they do it better. They do, and sometimes it's a ripoff. And so no, it's
Okay.
Nintendo is absolutely the one you vote for when you say innovation.
Okay. All right. Keith Norris. Who do you feel between Sony and Nintendo is more innovative?
I want to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Um, Dang, I wish everybody was still here. But anyways, because I know they're gonna tear me up for this. But based off of your last statement, Kayvon, you said you jump out there and do it. Nobody knew CD-ROMs was gonna work. They had this belief that it was gonna work when they was partnered up with Nintendo to make the Nintendo PlayStation was what it was gonna be called. They had that belief, and that went up, and they said, "Well, we just do it ourselves." And they went out with CD-ROMs, and from there, no, they haven't really been innovative, but they have iterated on everything. The PlayStation 1 to the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3 has essentially been an iteration of itself. So their initial innovation has sold over 100 million units each time. Each time. While Nintendo has had their ups and their downs and their ups and their downs and their downs. But Sony has that one piece of plastic that they made. They had just literally iterated on it the first time from the what they call it, the PSX with the CD-ROMs, and they went from
PSX. Yep, the CD-ROM. Absolutely.
They went from the CD-ROMs to the. They didn't go to Blu-ray. It was DVD.
They went to DVD.
And then they went to Blu-ray, which was a collaboration between Sony, Samsung, I think.
Yep.
Sony, Samsung, and Panasonic, I believe.
Panasonic. Yep.
Yeah. So it was So and then from there, and we to this day they still use Blu-rays because it just holds the most space. And while Microsoft tried to come out with the HD DVDs or whatever.
Yep. HD.
So that one single innovation that they did all the way back then, and now we could talk about the Rumble. We could talk about we could talk about all the different things, but
the joystick itself
and the joystick itself. That's Nintendo. The analog.
Yes. Nintendo.
That PlayStation has literally made the same console, just iterated on it each time, and it sold extremely well each time.
Yeah, sale doesn't equal innovation in my book. Because I agree, Sony sells, but sales is not high sale numbers.
Well, we
is
got
not
a
the
spot
same
for
as
sales.
innovation.
That's the point. Yeah, sales.
Yeah,
is
high
Yeah,
sale
yeah,
number
yeah,
is
yeah.
because Call of Duty sells out the wazoo. They're not innovative.
They iterate.
They iterate. They're not. They're not innovative. They don't innovate. They don't come out the block and wow, this is new. Wow, I've never seen this. No, I can't. Yeah.
So you
Sale
say
numbers are awesome.
so you say Sony, Keith?
I'm gonna give it to Sony just to play devil's
Nice.
advocate. I know,
Okay, all
I know that sounds like that should be K-Bone saying that, but yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate honestly, because I love everything Nintendo does for us, like the Wii remote, and then PlayStation came out with the Move. That just proves his point that he was making. That they just look at it and say, "Oh, we can do that better," and they did. And and now they're coming out with that PlayStation, whatever that little screen thing that they're doing, because that was
Ugh.
basically the Wii U.
It's the Wii U. It's the Wii U.
Yeah, so they're
Yep.
basically doing it. But I mean, I have to give it to them that they've stuck with their guns when it comes to their main console.
That's true.
So, and it's just been a success.
That's true.
Where Nintendo has tried things, failed. They've tried more things, they succeeded. But that one thing, like honestly, if Nintendo would have just stuck with the Super NES and just iterated on it, we'd probably be having a different conversation today. And maybe the industry wouldn't be moved as much as it was, just proving Nintendo's more innovative. But I
Yep.
still want to give PlayStation their kudos, because I know Level's gonna go in.
Yeah, I'm not finna go. No, I told y'all this is not hip hop gamer versus leveled head. This is not none of that. This is my friends. This is the cast, and yes, I'm about to go in. So anyway, now I would say for me, Keith, I get what you're saying, but I got to roll with K-Bum. I'm shocked that you went with Sony. I wasn't expecting that here. It's too many firsts with Nintendo for me to give it to Sony. Sony may do it better, but they took what was innovated and improved on it. Like, now, some of the stuff I'm not going to give credit to Switch because they didn't create motion controls, but they did introduce it to gaming in the capacity they did.
To the
And
mainstream.
Sony, mainstream. And then Sony took it and improved on it with the Move. But it's just too many things gaming is still enjoying that were first from Nintendo. D-pad. Shoulder buttons, matter of fact, Rumble. Matter of fact, the Super NES controller is kind of the foundation for most controllers today.
All controllers. They had the top, the L2s and stuff like that. The stuff at
Right.
the top. The
So-
triggers. The triggers.
Right. So even the shape, like even the model of the Super NES controller, kind of, if you look at the PlayStation original controller, is kind
Everybody
of modeled
else.
off of
It's
the Super
iteration
NES.
off of it.
Right.
Yep.
So it's just too many firsts. And then when you look at also the innovation in the games they make themselves, like they were the first. I actually saw this today, and I meant to share this with you guys. Virtua Fighters actually is credited for being the first true 3D
3D.
game that kind of helped shape all other 3D games, even Mario 64. So I was going to give Mario 64 that credit, but it's actually Virtua Fighter with Sega. So,
Yep.
but Nintendo has done a lot of first, even in their games themselves. So
Well,
they
even
made-
Mario wasn't the first platformer.
no, it wasn't.
Mario was based off another game that existed before Mario, and it's pretty much the same
Yeah.
thing. But they made it. They made it mainstream.
Right. So there's a lot of, just to look at what we're enjoying today, is a lot of stuff that really has not improved since Nintendo introduced the D-pad. It was perfect in its creation. It's like there is nothing else to make it. There is nothing to do to make it better. They introduced analog. They introduced Rumble. They introduced. Did they introduce gyro controls and all that? So it's just a lot of stuff.
No.
I think
no,
that
no.
may have been down on PCs before.
Maybe PC. Okay, so I don't want to give credit, but I know, like in their games, what was the game I was thinking about? That like the DS and some of the stuff they was doing there and the dual
The,
screens.
the, the 3D without having the 3D.
So it's just too many things.
Virtual
on it.
Boy,
Right.
What
Wait a
the
minute.
the VR one. What was that thing called?
Right.
The Virtual Boy. We don't
The
have
Virtual Boy, yeah, the
Boy.
Virtual Boy.
Right.
We're
And
not talking about Virtual Boy though.
So it's just
I mean,
too many.
it was innovative. It's
Yeah.
terrible, but
It may not have been good, but I
wasn't
wouldn't
good.
count Virtual Boy. But when I look over, and I had a lot of this stuff wrote down, I was trying to go back in my notes from that time when I was writing it down in the chat room, and I may pull some of it up later on in the conversation. But when I look at that, I got to give it to Nintendo on innovation, right? So it's just
Absolutely.
So anyway, so let's move to the next tier. So I add mine up here. And if y'all in the chat room, I want to hear what y'all think. Who do y'all feel is the most innovative? Let me know. Nia, first name basis. Fred 215. Who do y'all think is the most innovative? And let's get this chat room built back up. So right now, K-Bum is Nintendo. Sony is Keith went with Sony of all the people. Keith, you surprised me there. And of course, I went with Nintendo. So we're gonna move on to sales. Who is number one when it comes to them sales?
Now you said
I'm gonna start with Keith.
We talk about everything, right?
Yes,
But
everything.
when it comes to hardware, nobody's touching Sony. I don't know what type of magic they got over there. Nobody's touching Sony when it comes to hardware sales as far as like their home console. Now, if you combine Nintendo's handheld and their home console, then you're having a different conversation because I think
right.
the all the Game Boys, Game Boy Advance, the DS, 3DS, all of them sold like crazy. So if you combine everything, Nintendo has always been successful. It just didn't look like it because they weren't doing the same. They weren't fighting in the same space, which kind of alludes to how well the Switch is doing, which is at what 125 million, I believe. It's up there. And honestly, and I thought about this the other day. I think Nintendo's going for the PS2. I think they're going for it. I think that's why they're not really saying much. I think that's why they're trying to do as much as they possibly can to see if they can do it since they're so close. I don't know if they're gonna get it, but they are extremely close, and I'll be tight-lipped on the Switch 2 as well. Try to get that, try to topple the PS2. But when it comes to game sales, Nintendo has this thing called the evergreen titles. I don't know if Nintendo called it that or the fans called it that, but it seems like throughout the generations of their games just continues to sell, while as other competitors, their games go on sale maybe 6 months after they release. Nintendo continues to their games continue to sell, and in some games that I question how did they sell so much, like Animal Crossing, but they do. So this one right here, sales is kind of tough because on one hand, Sony does sell. They sell a lot, especially hardware. Their games maybe not as touching like Nintendo's games as far as like raw numbers. Nintendo consoles don't sell as well. They've had two really, really great generations. One still going right now. There's the current generation, and they've had one miserable. No, and if you want to count Virtual Boy, since we bring in everything, they've had two miserable generations of poor sales. Were they successful? Were they in the green or black? Sure, they were in the black, but when you compare it to the other consoles, the Xbox and PlayStation, it was horrible. So, I'm gonna give it to Nintendo only because of the games. But I still say I'm gonna give it to Nintendo because of the games, and I think the games matter the most.
Okay, all right. I think I go next, and K-Ball, you go last. So on this one, I was torn too, because when you look at what Sony has managed to do with hardware sales, it's hard to top it. But when you look at, I think what ends up going undiscussed is, and you kind of seeing it with the Switch, is Nintendo was kind of gutting themselves with two different systems. So even though like the GameCube and the N64 and then the Wii was an outlier, then of course the Wii U was an ultra failure. Like that mug was dead on arrival. You see a decline in the home consoles, but then when you look at handheld, the Game Boy, the DS and the DS Lite and the 3DS and all that over there, they were selling, like I'm looking right now, the DS sold 93 million systems. Now the DS was out at the exact same time that the Wii was out, and the Wii sold 100 plus million systems. So you put that together, for Nintendo total, in devices, Nintendo sold almost 200 million devices. Yeah, they were cheaper. So you got to add that factor in. That's why I'm saying Sony and Nintendo was selling like crazy. So on this one, then when you look at games, of course, first party, and we're going to get the first party. Nintendo is moving some crazy units on that Wii and them handhelds. They was moving some units. So I want to say a toss-up here. I kind of want to go toss-up. I don't really know how. I can lean Nintendo, and I can easily lean Sony with this one. I think I'm going to have to go Nintendo, but I don't want to be biased. But when you look at home console and handheld and the amount of units they move with their first party, especially on their handheld, with software, and if you look at the Switch, they have moved over 1 billion pieces of software with the Switch in 6 years. So I will say toss up, but I'm going to lean Nintendo. I think if you blow it out, it would be Nintendo. But I could easily say toss-up. So I don't know how to go with this one. I'm looking in the comment section and see what people saying. And don't let Shadow Fox be the only one commenting. I want to hear some other people too. But I'm reading your stuff, Shadow, so I'm going to see what you're saying. Nobody makes stories games like Sony. That is true. And that's going to come into... well, no, we didn't have story. But we should have added story.
No, we first party. First party is the same thing.
Party. Okay.
First party, same thing.
So it's on UK Bum. I'm torn. Let me think for a second which way I want to go with this, because I could go either way here. This is one I could go either way. Okay, go ahead, K Bum.
No problem. Just like the first one was easy for me, the second one is easy for me as well. This is super easy. Sony has annihilated Nintendo head-to-head competition when it comes to home consoles. Not even close.
No, they
not even close. If you look at Sony's their first console, the PlayStation, the first console sold 102 million versus somebody who has already been in the game for two consoles already, and it was their third console after coming off of their best-selling console. No, it wasn't best-selling. Sorry, actually, Super Nintendo sold a little bit less than the original Nintendo. That was still hot, but still, the Super Nintendo was a great system. They went to the 64, head-to-head competition, head-to-head, and the 64 sold 32 million. Cool. Next battle. Cool. They come out the gates. Next battle, PS2 versus GameCube. GameCube, the second lowest home console sales of all time for Nintendo. 21 million systems. The PlayStation 2, 155 million. We have never seen the likes of that at that point in time. It was unimaginable, the numbers that the PlayStation pulled when you're talking about head-to-head competition. It was unimaginable.
I want you to note Nia's comment, because I was gonna, but I don't want to interrupt. I want to give you the floor. So, but go ahead.
No problem. Like I said, we're gonna compare it all. I have no problem with that. And that's what I said. When you're talking about home console, I specified home console. They have been annihilated. And even the one that actually the Nintendo won. The one that Nintendo won, which was the PS3 versus the Wii. And the Wii came out the gate screaming. The PlayStation 3 was a dud. Let's be honest. The PlayStation 3, when it came out the gates, was a dud. People didn't touch that. Xbox was killing Sony.
What generation was the PSP?
That was the PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I think it was
PlayStation
2. I
2.
think Vita came out
Vita
around
was
the
3.
4-3 era.
Yeah, it was
All right.
3. Vita was 3.
Yeah.
PSP was
Yeah.
mid between PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3.
PSP sold 80 million globally.
Right. It was units, man.
That
Go
was moving
ahead.
you-
They
Because
killed that
if we're
generation.
combining,
we
units,
got to. We got to do it all the way. So
I mean,
Keep
80
on
million
making a good
ain't
argument.
bad.
And the
80
Vita
80
sold
million
60.
Ain't bad.
I think the Vita
And-
sold between 40 to 60.
No. Yeah, the Vita is down here at 10. I'm looking at the
It was
numbers right
10?
now.
Oh, okay. I
The
thought
Vita
it
was
40,
trash.
60.
It was Wii U level trash.
hey man, hold on now.
hey,
Wii U was trash. When you look at it, Keith,
don't do
it
that.
was,
I am
man.
spitting
It
facts
was
here,
trash.
brother. I am
It's
not
true.
doing
It's
any
facts.
conflating.
It's facts with this.
I'm-
Go
Okay,
ahead. Go
there
ahead.
we go.
K-Bubba,
All right.
yours. Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
I don't
All
want.
right.
We don't want to interrupt.
The first head-to-head come, like I said, the PS3 stunk up the place. It was terrible. No one wanted it. Everyone said, I'd rather have a 360 instead of a Sony system. Sony was dead last. They made a switch. And at the end of the console, PS3 managed to still beat 360 and managed to only be about 20 million, slightly under 20 million behind the Wii, which stole like hotcakes out the gate and kind of stumbled at the end. And then we had the second fight. I mean, the PS4 and the Wii U. That's not even worth having the conversation. The lowest home console you ever sold, 13 million for Nintendo. Very, very bad. The PS4 hit 117, I believe.
Yeah.
117. Right. And so we have the success now, which is awesome. The Switch. I'm very happy that the Switch is selling. They have, and I don't want to belittle the Switch numbers. They have consumed their own market, which is the handheld market. They no longer have two pieces of hardware. They have a combined hardware, but it's still selling 125. I'm not going to throw shade. I'm going to mention the fact they cannibalize their own market with the handheld, but I'm not going to. I don't use that to downplay the Switch. I use that to just give information, right? And right now they're killing it. PlayStation 5's around right under 40 million, but that is with the fact that you could not buy because there were shortages. And as soon as the shortages went away, they started to sell like hotcakes. And they did good numbers with the shortage they had. And like I said, it's been out for not even 3 years yet. It came out in 2020. Came out during COVID. So there's still room to work there. But Switch right now is dominating. It had a 3-year head start, but it's 125 million. It's selling like hotcakes and it's doing its thing. But the pure numbers, it's not even close. But even if you take like the handheld, you have the PlayStation PSP, which is their first iteration, 80 million. It's a pretty good number. It's slightly behind the Game Boy Advance, which came out a year earlier, which only sold 1 million more. And it goes, it's dominated then by the Game Boy Color and the DS, which is 154. But still, 80 out of your first iteration. Not bad, sir. Not bad. It did outsell the DS, which came out a little bit later than that. So to me, sales consoles, it's strictly Sony. And to me, when it comes to software, so there's another thing I got to give to Nintendo. So I give Nintendo the fact if we're talking about software per unit, Nintendo wins. It's a proven fact that people who own Nintendo systems
This is a toss-up.
buy more games for their system. That is if you go back to the history, you will see there are more. Somebody said the PS $600. Yeah, it was $600. But you get more software per system. That number is always higher on the Nintendo console. I'm not even going to debate there. There's no point that it wins. But he said something about games, and he talked about sales. Again, if we look at the year-to-year sales, and I know this number also includes Xbox sales. I understand that. But when you look at, and I did this example for last year games. I don't have it up right now, but when you look at the top 10 games that were sold, over half of those games that were sold are not even playable on Nintendo systems. And we're talking about software sales. Yes, the first party for Nintendo sells like hotcakes. It does. And again, I'm including the selling games on the particular PlayStation. You buy the PlayStation not to just play first party, but to play third party games as well. So I'm also including them as far as you're getting that system to play these games. You're getting the system to play GTA. You're getting the system to play Call of Duty. Nintendo sells. You can't even play some of the top 10 games on their system. So I still, and I said all that, I'm going to go ahead and end because I don't want to make it sound too long. To me, the nod goes to Sony. For those, the only market truly that I think Nintendo wins is the home, is the handheld, and even the PSP showed that they did have some fighting power in there. They weren't completely blown away into the Vita, and then the systems, the software per system is owned by Nintendo, but I think everywhere else that falls, it goes to Sony. So my stance on that is Sony wins that argument.
Okay, so you say Sony. All right, so let me double this up.
And I did say when I talked about third party, I'm not talking about third party game. What I'm talking about is that you need the Sony system to play the third party game. That's a part of the reason why people buy those particular systems is to play those particular games. So the third party does have an impact on the sales of particular consoles. Especially if you can't get that same game on one system. It does make a divider.
So I put mine down as a tie. That's what you see there, a literal tie, like for your neck. So when we tally this up, it's a tie for me. So it can go either.
Okay, you're able to tie. Okay.
Yeah. So to me it was a tie. So let's go popularity on this one. We're gonna start with
you.
With me. Okay. So popularity is no brainer. It's Sony. Ain't no argument. I'm not even finna try to defend. Now, Nintendo is making grounds that they got their head out their proverbial butt. But popularity, I mean, because we could be prisoners of the moment and look at what's going on with Mario, the movie, and what's going on with the Switch. And yes, Nintendo is popular right now. Like, they have moved back up into par conversation with Sony and, to a lesser sense, Microsoft. But if you want to just say who is more popular, it's Sony. I'm not even finna hear. I don't think nobody in a comment section can argue any other thing but Sony. So I'm gonna go ahead and give Sony they kudos and move this up. For mine is Sony all day long here, no question. They are the more popular, even though Nintendo has made considerable grounds. So Nintendo is flirting with dethroning it, but it's still Sony in my book. K-Bum, I think it's you this time.
So that's funny you say that. So when we're talking about popularity, I looked at it in two ways. If you're talking about the brand, Nintendo's brand is more popular than Sony.
That's value, though.
I was looking at popularity. I understand, but I was looking at popularity as that as well. You know,
okay.
Is that the brand itself? That's why we can divide it. We want to say that's value. I mean. I look to value something different, but Nintendo brand. I mean, there's a Nintendo land, right? Like Disney World. There's like a Nintendo World, right?
Yeah.
I don't see a Sony World anywhere. So the brand.
That's true. That is actually K-Bum. That actually makes.
You can't change the answer.
I told you I'm fair here.
I can change my answer, but I'm not yet. But K-Bum, I didn't think of that.
Chat. I am being fair here. This is not. I'm a Sony fan, but I'm a fan of more video games. So let's be honest here. Nintendo has the most popular character in all of gaming.
Whoa, K-Bum, killing me. How's K-Bum?
I'm coming with the facts, bro. I'm not a Sony pony.
Okay.
I told you that. They have the most popular. It proved itself in the box office when it came to the movie. It is the most popular character in all of gaming. We talked about it. There's no one close. There's no one close, bro.
I'm changing mine. Just Nintendo, man. K-Bum has convinced me that I was tripping.
I'm
I'm
done with
leaving
facts.
Sony for
So,
now.
so
I'm leaving Sony for now.
if we're talking brand, it's Nintendo. If we're talking just the brand of the two, but if we're talking about in the mindsets of video gamers, especially the mindset of video gamers now, it is clearly Sony. Sony has the mind share of pretty much all of gaming. They have the mind share of pretty much all of gamers. You really can't get through it's hard to get through a generation of gaming and not have a PlayStation at some point. It is very hard. And I really do think when you're talking about the teens, you're talking about some of the 15, early 20-year-olds, the mind share is Sony. Because Sony, especially now, you see some of the moving into the movie aspects and the TV shows and HBO and everything else. I truly think when it comes to the gamers mindset and gamers mind share, that is Sony. But for me, for this argument of popularity, I'm actually going to go with it's a toss up. That's my piece. I can't fully give to Sony because the most popular character in all of gaming is Nintendo. The brand itself has its own Nintendo world, so it's really hard for me to just say Sony. But when we're talking about, especially over the past 10, 15 years, it has been Sony. Sony has kind of really pushed gaming with for its popularity, and you pretty much can't go without getting a PlayStation. But to me, it's a toss up. I'm going to go right down the middle of this. I'm not even going to choose.
You made me change yours from Sony to a tie. Okay. So, K-Bum said toss up. Keith Norris.
Facts, bro.
Popularity, Sony, Nintendo. Who walking away with it?
Who's walking away with this one? Man, y'all brought out some compelling arguments. K-Bum got you want to change your answer. I think I'm gonna roll with Nintendo here. And I'm gonna try to. I don't know if I could break it down like K-Bum break it down. I'm gonna try. Sony has been very, very consistent. The brand itself has been very consistent throughout the years. As you can tell by the sales. You know what I'm saying? The sales tells you that the brand has been very consistent. And what that means is when it comes to gaming, if I buy a PlayStation, I know that 9 times out of 10, there's not a game I'm going to miss other than the ones on Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? And that's why you buy it. I don't know what Microsoft issue is, but that's a whole nother topic, right? But and then they also have their first party games, God of War, Uncharted, and all those other games that they don't really, and some other games like Princess, whatever the game is, whatever. They don't keep up with all the games. But anyways, my point with Nintendo is, like you just said, the movie and the age groups. You got the young and you got the old. And we all came together to go see Mario, right? And that movie went over 1 billion. And they have been consistent with sales when it comes to Mario. Even on their lowest selling console, Mario still sells like gangbusters. Because he's just extremely popular, and I think Shadow Fox said in the chat, he's right there with Mickey Mouse if he has not surpassed Mickey Mouse. And I know we're talking about that one character, but people love Nintendo characters from Donkey Kong. I mean, the amount of people that was championing the little screen time that Dixie Kong and Diddy Kong and all those people had from that movie, everybody was just like happy-go-lucky. To see those characters, and Zelda is finally getting the respect that it deserves, but it's also been highly respected throughout the years. People have been making Zelda, and what I mean by that is the sales. The sales are finally matching how great the series has been. Metroid, there's like cult followings with a lot of Nintendo IP. Pokemon is not necessarily a Nintendo IP, but it is. It's kind of like it's Nintendo adjacent. But you got people who go crazy, like they go crazy for Nintendo IP, like people used to do at Michael Jackson concerts. They just sit there and cry. He just standing there. You know what I mean? But with Sony, there isn't a single thing that you could say as to say why this is more popular, other than it's just consistent. I'll have one of these because I know there's some stuff that I can't get on the Nintendo, but I have, for me anyways, I guess I'm speaking for myself, I have to have the Nintendo console because I can't miss the Marios, the Zeldas, the Donkey Kongs. Hopefully we'll get a Star Fox. F-Zero's dead, you know what I'm saying? But the Pikmin's now, and other little wonky games that Nintendo comes up with, and the Wii. We can talk about the Wii alone. Got everybody up out of their seats. Again, back from young to the old, everybody was up playing Wii. You had this system in nursing homes. Everybody was playing Wii. Nintendo was a household name again. That,
and then they made the Wii
U. They confused everybody that they just got. They was confused. Like, what is this? This the add-on? Can I just buy this?
I had to tell a lady at Best Buy that Mario for the Wii U couldn't be played on the Switch. He was adamant. They said you could just buy the controller. I was like, no, that's a whole new system.
Great job.
That was a big fail on Reggie when he had to say that. I know he felt bad. But anyways, I'm going to give it to Nintendo for popularity. You can substantiate it with sales by saying Sony's more popular, but I look at the culture. It's kind of like watching a basketball game and seeing at the end of the game LeBron's stats, but if you actually watch the game, you can see who had the most of the better impact. You know what I'm saying? It could be that last 2 minutes of the game that person swung the whole game for somebody. You know what I'm saying? But overall, yeah, this person was packing the bigger punch, but I see the impact. And I see the impact with Nintendo when it comes to their IP, their characters, so on and so forth. I don't see it as much with PlayStation, and also there could just be a ignorance on my part because I'm not in those PlayStation streets like that.
I didn't add Impact. That's the one I left out, but we could still discuss it. When you said Impact, I was like, I knew I left one out. Impact was one K-Bum tier that we had that I left out of this list. But anyway, okay, so far, I think y'all can see that we're not predictable as we thought, because I'm seeing a lot of, I wasn't predicting that. Like, for innovation, I wasn't predicting Keith to say Sony. For popularity, I wasn't predicting Keith to say Nintendo. I wasn't predicting K-Bum to say Ty. And for me, at first I was going to say Nintendo with sales, but when I thought about it, I couldn't deny Sony, and I had to put Ty. So y'all see that we are trying to be fair here. So this is not a council war. This is just the podcast live and level. Go ahead, Keith. K-Bum, what you saying?
I understand. This ain't no fanboy show.
No.
Just know that this ain't ain't fanboys fighting for their favorite system because they want people to think it's the best. I don't care about the piece. It's a piece of plastic. Right. I play video games because I enjoy video games. I don't play video games because it says Nintendo or Sony. I play video games. If Sony died right now, I'm gonna have another system playing video games. It does not matter. I play video games. I'm not tied to a particular piece of plastic.
So I believe this next one is going to be unanimous across the board. And I think the next two is going to be unanimous. I can plug these.
Am I first? Am I first on this one?
Yeah, it's your go.
I think I'm first.
Party.
Let's make it quick. Let's make it quick. Nintendo next. I mean,
Can I go?
Never. Hold on. I just want to say it's stupid.
Now, you gotta explain, though. Even though we know.
Stupid, bro. The numbers Nintendo makes on their first party. It is hard to comprehend for someone who doesn't like Nintendo games. I'm gonna be honest. I don't have a Nintendo because I don't care for their games. Well, I do have a Switch. Sorry, I do have a Switch, and I have tried games. I play games on there. Some games like Mario Kart and stuff like that. I very much enjoy. But I'm not a big. Some of all the platformers, all the Kirby's, and all that. You can keep it. You can keep every last Mario. HD. You can keep all the Kirby's. But what blows my mind is when I go look at the software sales of Nintendo, and I see first party, and I see stupid numbers for the first party games. We have to spend too much time. I don't know how to do it. Maybe it's some in the water. I don't know. But we talk about the chat. Even the Wii U, that sold 13 million copies. I think, but they sold like 10 million copies
They
of
were selling almost
Mario
1-to-1
Kart.
on a lot of it almost sold 1-to-1 with the
It was
system.
almost 1-to-1. That's stupid, man. Sony don't do that. People buy Sony's PlayStations to play DVDs. That nobody buy. People who buy Nintendo systems are buying Nintendo systems to play Nintendo games. That is proven, and I'm not even going to dare try to argue with Sony on that point. So we can go ahead, man.
All right, welcome to the show, Chariot Man Gaming.
One hitter quitter, TKO.
All right, so what's going on is we're talking about who's truly number one when it comes to this industry between Sony and Nintendo, and we got our tiers. We're going to add Impact towards the end, and I'll set it off to the side. But right now we on first party. Keith Norris is your go. Who is number one when it comes to first party?
Yeah, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. You know, the way the muscles on Kratos, how they flex.
And no, it's Nintendo, man. It's Nintendo. It's not even close, man. Like, nah, it's not even close.
Kratos is dope and all, but
Kratos is very dope. I'm gonna give Sony their flowers. Like, I'll always give them their flowers. Like,
Last of Us.
The Last of Us. Oh my God, I love that series. Last of Us 2, very deep and heartbreaking game, and but very great games. Uncharted, I wasn't a fan, but I've been playing the
Uncharted 2,
collection.
one of the best games ever made.
I gotta play it at some point. Spider-Man now. You know what I'm saying? Like, who can forget Miles Morales? Like, yo, the intro to that game, just the music
Ratchet and Clank.
alone. So
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank, they have a lot of great IP, but when it comes to Nintendo, it's not even close. And you could talk about sales, but I'm talking about gameplay. Like, who would have thought a game like Pikmin would have my mind like it does? You know what I mean? Who would have thought that they could make a game like Breath of the Wild, then turn it into Tears of the Kingdom, which you should play? I liken that to how people talk about.
I like that.
I'm gonna keep saying it.
That's a good one.
I like it to how people talk about Horizon Zero Dawn to Forbidden West. They're like, a lot of people didn't like Horizon Zero Dawn, but a lot of people loved Forbidden West, and that's how I kind of compare Breath of the Wild. I can see how people don't like Breath of the Wild. I cannot see how people don't like Tears of the Kingdom. It's two completely different experiences. Mario is, to me, always great. Galaxy, oh my God. Galaxy 1, I 100%ed that game. Galaxy 2 had a lot more difficulty. I could not 100% that game.
I like Ratchet and Clank before PlayStation 5. That's not true. Now, I like Ratchet and Clank on all the systems, PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4.
She's talking directly to me. I didn't play Ratchet and Clank until the PS5. But to my point, I played the Ratchet and Clank from the PS4 before I played the PS5 only version, and I played the PS4 version of it, and I'm like, wow, it's a good game. I've already wanted to play Ratchet and Clank, but I never did. And then y'all flame me for it. Nia, talking about you, saying ha, K-Bomb likes platformers. So let's not start this conversation.
Well, you do, K-Bomb.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Actually, do, because you want to play the new what is it for Ubisoft?
Prince of Persia.
Yeah,
Prince of Persia.
that's a platformer.
Ooh, that's gonna be fire.
Whatever.
But anyways, man, I could keep going on and on and on. You know, Mario Kart. We need Nintendo. If you're listening, we need that.
we should have milking as a topic. We should have who's milks more, because that's
We can do that next time. We can do a negative side of this.
Sony milks more. Yeah, I could break that down. Sony
I would
milks
love
more.
to have that one. How many times have you bought the Nintendo, that NES Classic game? How many times you bought that?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
We ain't got to do it next time. The next generation
Look,
system ain't gonna make us do that. K-Bub.
We get one true Mario game or two a generation. We don't get that many Mario games like y'all think. We get one or two Zelda games a generation. We don't get as many as people try to make it seem. We really don't.
True.
We be
One Mario Kart, one Smash Bros, one.
You know what I'm saying? You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Uncharted. I'm just playing.
Let me go ahead and add my part to this first party. It's Nintendo. I mean, come on. they got their own theme park. You think anybody going to ride Kratos? Or somebody going to ride
Pause.
Nathan. Oh, pause. Hey, I'm not pausing. Hey, that's for immature people. Y'all knew what I meant. You think anybody going to jump on the roller coaster called Nathan Drake?
There we go.
So, I mean, Nintendo has a theme park after it. They first party characters are iconic. Mario just beat Disney into a pulp by itself, and the movie was, I mean, it's good, but it ain't great for a storyline and everything. It is not much there, but it's enough to beat Elemental and all the rest of the stuff Sony trying to do. So, I mean, not Sony, but Disney doing. So, of course, it's Nintendo first party. I mean, come on, Donkey Kong, Zelda, Metroid. It's ridiculous. Little Max, characters, little Kid Icarus. Like, come on, man.
Man, we need some Kid
This
Icarus,
dude is
man.
Sunday. This is Saturday morning cartoons with cereal and summer school out. Man, come on. It's Nintendo all day. So let's get on to this third party because I gotta add a ninth tier, and that's Impact. So we're gonna do third party, and I already know where this one goes. I already know what this is going. This is unanimous across the board. But I think it's me. So it's Nintendo for me, first party. Of course, it's Sony. Nintendo doesn't get much third. We just now getting the Batman trilogy for 8-year-old games, bro. We just now getting the solids of games that was on the Nintendo. Like, bro, it's absolutely is Sony. The developers live because that's where they make money. They make money off of them systems. That's why the bells and whistles are there. That's why online is right. It's absolutely Sony. I mean, do we need to argue this? Like, we don't have Call of Duty. We don't have Street Fighter. I got to buy Street Fighters on my PlayStation 5. We don't have GTA. We don't have the top quality third-party titles. Let's be real. Bayonetta 3 is not it. Y'all stop fooling yourself. Stop lying to yourself.
Mortal Kombat that looks like Vaseline's been poured over it.
Witcher 3 that should never have came to the system. Anyway,
Skyrim. You got Skyrim, though, don't you?
It's Skyrim. Did it run away? Fortnite. It can't spell night on the plate. You can't see it on the Switch. It's Fort. Anyway, so for me, it's
Wow.
you can't see them night on there. But for me, it's Sony. So I ain't gonna even waste time because these two tiers is clearly obvious. I think it's UK Bomb, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll make it quick too. Yeah, it's Sony.
Okay.
It's clearly Sony. Sony makes their systems for third party. They talk to third party and say, "Hey, what do you want on the next Sony system?" And they say, "Well, I want 8 gigs, 16 gigs of RAM. I want this. I want to be able to do this and this and this." Now after the failure of the PS3, well, not really big failure, but the bad start of the PS3, they talk to developers and they give them what they want on the systems. And so it's third party and they work very well. And as you've heard in the FTC, Sony paid third party very well as well to stay on the Sony system. But a lot of what Sony does is for third party. And so now this is a kind of a easy as first party is for Nintendo. It's as easy Sony. For a third party for Sony. So I'm not even going to take time. But I did want to give a shout out. Alan Steed in the comment. I did see you, bro.
Alan Steed, I didn't see you there. Welcome to the show. All these bums. Welcome to the show,
make sure
bro.
I gave him a shout out. But this one's easy.
I want to read what Shadow Fox said. Imagine a world where Street Fighter 5 comes to your portable console and not your home console. That happened too.
Street Fighter 4.
Street Fighter 4. Did I say 5 or 4? I thought it said 4. But anyway, 4 was on the 3DS because I bought it for my son and it wasn't on the Wii U. Crazy. So anyway, Keith, is your goal third party? Who is winning here, bruh? Who?
Yeah, man. You don't put PlayStation on there for me, man. That ain't right, man. I was gonna say that. Yeah. Although
although Nintendo does get a lot of third-party games, we just don't recognize them. And
Just
there's a reason.
Dance.
And there's a reason for that. There is
Just
a reason
Dance.
for that. No, but I wish Nintendo did get a lot more third-party games, especially on those consoles where they were really truly being innovative, like the Wii and the Wii U. Oh my God, the Wii U, man! Can you imagine Grand Theft Auto with that screen, or that one game that they was talking about bringing out with the that was a Ubisoft game, or it was a military shooter. Man, those games would have been awesome. And even if they had got the what's my girl, Tomb Raider, all those games. The Wii U had it. It was just didn't have it. But yeah, it's Sony. Sony all day.
Yeah, my issue, I do have a sort of issue with Nintendo when it comes to the third party, is that a lot of their technology, right? They don't really share as well with third parties. And I know Sony, for some of those big titles for Sony, they send a representative to show them how to maximize the PS3, right? And they do a lot of that because, well, you know what I'm saying, Sony knows what the money's is, and the money for them is in third party. So they go a little extra step, a little extra miles, and they send little robot Mark Cerny to whatever developers to help squeeze some more juice out of the PlayStation system. So I know they kind of go the extra miles.
He need them Zonite charges in.
Yeah, he needs some of that bad boy. He's smart, but he is a robot.
To them little dudes. What the little dudes? Anyway, let me stop. Go ahead, K-Ball. It's your go.
No, that's all I want to say. I'm good. We can move
all
on.
right. Okay, so the next tier is value. Now we getting into where I know it's finna light up a little bit. So value, and I think are you first, Keith, on this one, or is it K-Bum? Do jump back? No, it's Keith.
I went second on that last one.
So it's Keith. Keith, you first here. It's Keith, then me, then you, K-Bum. Then it starts back with you, K-Bum. Value,
Man.
Keith.
On the surface, Sony appears to be more valuable than Nintendo. On the surface, when we combine hardware sales, their first party sales, even though we gave it to Nintendo, but they're no slouch. Don't get it twisted. Don't think PlayStation ain't selling first party titles. They do. And then when you go back to the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, although games like Metal Gear Solid weren't technically first party exclusives, but they move units like they were first party, right? Until they start coming to other games, and even including Grand Theft Auto, just because they weren't coming to the Nintendo system. So value, you look at from the publishers, how they were able to put their titles on the PlayStation, and everybody can it was just like an open house. Everybody can just come to PlayStation and just make money, right? But then you look at Nintendo, and they had those individual values like Mario. You take Mario anywhere, and he's the most valuable. He is the MVP, right? Everybody would love to take pieces away from Nintendo, but in totality, maybe not so much. But those little individual pieces. So for me, this one it should be hard. I'm gonna give it to Nintendo.
Okay.
Just because of the recent stuff. I mean, I don't want, like you said earlier, I don't want to be a prisoner of the moment, but they've had a resurgence, it seems, of popularity, sales, and I think value wise, and like K-Bone said earlier, they got a whole theme park. Sony has Spider-Man, so I'm gonna give it to Nintendo for value, and I think anybody will want, because like, let's go back to when Microsoft bought Rare. They really thought they was going to hurt Nintendo. It didn't. They kept going up and up and up and up, and they did it by themselves. Yeah, they had other games. Capcom trickled in games. Capcom even made some Zelda games. For those who don't know that, you had third-party developers pitching in and things like that, but Nintendo really stood on their own. Whereas Sony, like I was saying earlier, how everybody had to come together and they just made money because it was like, hey, just come to the PlayStation party. While Nintendo really had to stick to their own guns and make their IPs what they are today. So I'm gonna give it to Nintendo.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm gonna walk away from that.
Keith Norris Says Nintendo, and I'm gonna piggyback with him, and I'm gonna explain why. And I like what he said. I think what you said at the beginning, Keith, was right on the money. On the surface, when it comes to value, what something is worth, or like what, is value, it would seem to be Sony. Because Sony's cars, to me, more popular, more mind share. I know Shadow Fox says, what is mind share? The fact that PlayStation is everybody mind. That's mind share. But when you, again, we said we pulling back the layers of the onion. We not just, we diving deep in. When you look at it, and you look at what one is worth versus the other, Sony may seem to be more valuable, but you're looking at Sony as a company, not PlayStation. When you look at what PlayStation is valued, it's no comparison to Nintendo, because Nintendo doesn't have a movie side and this side and that side of their business to offset when Nintendo games is not doing good. When Nintendo games is not doing good, Nintendo is not doing good. When Sony PlayStation isn't doing good, it hurts Sony's the company, but they have other areas to draw funds from. So that money they spent on Bungie didn't just come from Sony PlayStation. That came from Sony. Whereas Nintendo is a gaming company, and if you look at just worth and value, with IP, with first party, it's Nintendo all day. They are more valuable than Sony PlayStation is, and so and that was one of my first thoughts. Like, wait a minute, when we look at it, yeah, it seems you would say Sony systems cost so much they selling, but when you just look at it bare bones, you look at the bank, you look at the bottom line, it's Nintendo. They more valuable. If you ask me, who do you want? If I got to take over and put their money in my bank account, Sony PlayStation money or Nintendo money, I want Nintendo money. So I'm going with Nintendo. K-Bum, the floor is yours here. Let me do it this way. Who is more valuable?
Now, value money, who has the most value? This is one of the things that I was reading. I wanted to make sure I was clear. Now, when we say the most value, I clearly believe that the most value comes with the PlayStation systems, because the most value you're getting, because what you're getting is that you're getting the ability to play excellent first party games, which are landmarks within the generation that they're published in, and you're able to play the most popular games in all of gaming, which is third-party games, the Fortnites, the Call of Duty, the Maddens, the Overwatches, all these third-party games, which are the most popular games that's out there, you get the value to be able to do all of that in one system. And not only that, you get Sony's PlayStations are entertainment systems. They're not just video game consoles. They're entertainment systems. And they started that with even with the PS1, with the ability to do CDs, with the ability to do DVDs. The majority of the people who bought PS2s probably had about 2 games that they bought for it, and 50 DVDs that they were playing on it. I truly think when it comes to value and when it comes to generation after generation, a lot of your
worth. Then I probably should have put worth there than value.
Yeah. That's why I was trying to make sure I understood what we were saying. But from my perspective, on how I view the value and what they give to the industry, to me it was Sony. The fact that you have all these things. Matter of fact, the fact that you can even do so much more than just gaming on these systems and what they offer.
So let me clarify. So
to me, it was clearly Sony
valuable. I slanged it up with value. I meant valuable or worth. But K-Bum makes an argument, so let's add value to it. So we're going to deal with valuable, worth, and value. So Keith, I'm going to give you the floor again.
Man, we got to do the topics that we have. We can't be
then it's valuable. The topic is valuable.
It's valuable.
It's valuable. I meant valuable. So I clarified. So K-Bum was talking value, like what you get out of, and that can be impact. But again,
Yeah.
So do you feel like Sony is more valuable? The PlayStation is more valuable than Nintendo?
I'm gonna make people upset, and I'm gonna say yeah. I personally do.
Okay.
I think if Nintendo was not in the video game space, and this is for a lot of people now, and back then when Nintendo was making strides and it was selling hotcakes, and especially in the mobile market, yeah. But now when even with Sony's move to PC, I still think. In my perspective, again, this does get very subjective. I do think still I would say Sony over Nintendo in this aspect. Like I said, I've been trying to be fair in every piece of category that we have. I do stand by my word on this one.
Okay. All right. So so we down to 3 tiers. Now impact was supposed to be there, so I'm not going to add valuable. K-Bum brought up a good point, and Nia said you must clarify. I was wrong. I put value. I was on the Ebonics. But, I meant worth, value, worth, or valuable, which is more valuable, or who has the most worth. But K-Bum makes it interesting. But he's on either one. He stands with Sony with valuable. Okay. Yeah. So the next tier is K-Bum is services. We already know where it's going. So let me go ahead and copy this on down here.
I'm gonna surprise everybody. I'm gonna surprise everybody.
No, you're not. I'm gonna go.
Man. I'm gonna surprise everybody. I'm gonna go with the Neo Geo. The Neo Geo had the best.
Kobe Bryant is the best basketball player.
Oh man, I'm gonna let you finish, but the Neo Geo had the greatest service of all time. No, it's Sony. 2 words, friend codes. Like, why, man? Why are we still doing this, man? Why? Yeah. Oh God. I've heard. So I'll say this because I've been going back and forth with the comment section about this, about an honorable mention. A lot of people do want to give an honorable mention to Xbox for services because they were the first to have the online service. Xbox Live was the first. They did it first, and they have superb backwards compatible. No one's even close. Nintendo isn't close. Nintendo isn't close with backwards compatibility. Sony isn't close with the way Xbox delivers backwards compatibility. So if there was any category that Xbox could win, that if they were allowed in this vote, it would be services. But since they can't even make good games to win to be back into the race, they're not included into this. They're not invited to the table. So
I put the Xbox over there. I gave them some love. They showed up.
No, they ain't showed. Don't put them over there.
I got them there.
They want to spin Sony out of existence. Anyway, it's easy. It's Sony in this aspect. Services and everything they offer, and they still do a good job of offering value because they were the first people who really offered value with the PSN. You remember when they first started charging, they were the first ones to offer value. And then everyone's followed suit by offering free games. But that was Sony's first take into making you pay for online, was to give you free games or discounts. And they did that actually before Xbox did it with theirs when they started charging even more. So it's easy.
Okay, so K-Bum Services is Sony. Is it me? Yes, me. Sony. I ain't even finna. I ain't even explaining. There's no need to explain. We had to use our phones to chat with people. We couldn't even play. We didn't even get the chance. We couldn't even play Splatoon enough to even make it worthwhile. We spent $60 on a game we played 3 times. It's Sony. Keith Norris, who do you got?
This is a difficult one because I keep going back and forth, deleting this Nintendo app. I don't know why I keep bringing it back. I keep downloading it. I keep deleting it. I keep downloading it. I keep deleting it. Nah, it's not. It's not even a contest here. It's Sony all day, every day. I remember when I first got my PS3, I was like, "This is the world I've been missing." It was a whole new. It was Aladdin for me. I
Oh,
was like, "What is this?"
that's funny.
So yeah, it's PlayStation.
Okay,
But,
so
but Nintendo is talking about their account system moving forward. So they
And you trust them?
I mean, honorable mention. Oh, go. Finish
yeah,
what you said.
no, I'm gonna give them their props because now they see
You
it.
trust them.
Do I trust? Yeah. Why, I don't think there's a reason not to trust.
There's
them.
no reason for Encode to trust what they're doing online services.
No, it's an account service now, man.
Okay.
This honestly and respectfully, and I have to say this: this is not Iwata's era no more.
Okay.
Respectfully.
Right. And I say this, man. We got to give a nod to Miiverse. Miiverse was dope.
Woo!
It was
Miiverse
dope.
dope.
Miiverse was dope. And the online for the Wii U was a great experience. But for whatever reason, they didn't want to build and expand on that. 'Cause they had the thing that they needed to have. It was unique. It was very Nintendo-esque. It was Facebook for Nintendo, and they just went away from it. I thought it was a unique thing to go on there and hear Pacific games being talked about. You can go to that game and hear conversation about that game. The online was pretty dope. Outside of I think even voice chat was voice chat decent on the Wii U. Nope, no it wasn't. The voice chat was still a terrible experience.
No, because they were still trying to hold. Do you remember the thing that they came out with the Wii? Well, I think it was like when Animal Crossing came out. The little speak. What was?
We speak, bro. We
Come
quit.
on.
We are done. That's what it is. We done, Nintendo. We done with your shenanigans.
Goodness
Anyway,
gracious.
so all right, Impact. I think it's on me.
Did you squeeze that one on there?
Yeah, I told you I was gonna get.
You got that one on there?
Yeah, I did, because that was on our tiers. That's one of our tiers.
It was.
Impact for me, like I said, I'm qualifying when you just look at totality. What a company has brought to the table. There are things that Nintendo has innovated that has not been improved on. Like I said, yeah, the Rumble has been improved on and other things, but it all started with Nintendo. It all got its birth with them. And they are still impacting and pushing things forward to this day. When you look at games like Tears of the Kingdom and the innovations that they've done there and the way that they approach things, their willingness to gamble and try things and fail just for the point of pushing nuance and pushing the boundaries, the blue ocean strategy. They literally blew open a whole new gaming field of gamers. They brought your mom and your grandma and they forced a controller in their hands. And Nintendo Impact to me is Nintendo. Now, Sony is right there though. But when I look at just pure impact on gaming and everything that has been done, everything that they bring to the table, and I compare it to Sony right there with them, but I think Nintendo nudged them out here, so I'm going with Nintendo and Impact. I think the floor is yours, K-Bomb, and then it's Norris.
Okay, so for me, it's close because I agree with you in level as far as impact. Nintendo, I looked at Tears of the Kingdom, and I looked at the developers freak out at what Nintendo was able to accomplish in the Tears of the Kingdom, and to see that they are doing things that they didn't even think was possible to be done in a video game. That's impact. That says, hey, okay, how do we do this in our game? Because they just did this on this handheld game, and how do we do this? And so, absolutely, I think Nintendo offers great impact. I think they offer impact especially when like I said, a lot of things they jump out there first and they try. There's a lot of failures in that trying, but they have large impacts on the industry. But On the other hand, I think about Sony, and I think about the impacts that they have moving the entire gaming over to the CD space, right? The space of no longer using cartridges. The impact that has had on the industry is still being felt, even though Nintendo still wants to use their cartridges.
Hey,
Nintendo still want to use their cartridges.
Add this to yours. Add this to yours.
Yeah.
Sony Impact made gaming a cool thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before it was niche and it was us, it was a side thing. Sony made gaming mainstream. If you be technical, I ain't gonna say Nintendo did kind of, but if you really look at it, even with the sales of the PlayStation 1, 100-something million. That was before it had a DVD player. It was 100+ million. We had never seen nothing like that, and it became it made gaming a staple, not just something that those kids do, but it became a thing. So I think that too. Go ahead.
Absolutely, and I look at that when you look at the impact and see that impact. Well, I might be changing my answer. Oh God, when you look at Sony's impact and how they decided how a movie format was going to be, who was going to be the winner in the movie format, in a media storage format, they decided who was going to win. It was because of the Blu-ray. HD had no chance because of the PlayStation. That's impact. And Keith said it earlier. Blu-ray is still being used to this day because of the impact Sony had, not even just on gaming, but on all of entertainment. And so, to me, I was really going for a toss-up, and it's to me it's very close. I actually wrote down that it is that I'm sitting right in the middle. I couldn't really decide, but I think, to me, looking at some of the industry impacts, and you know what, I'm gonna go down the middle because every time I think about a Sony impact, I also think about Nintendo's impact. But I still think, and I know that we're getting some hate on third parties in the conversation, which I understand, especially if you're a main Nintendo fan, you don't care too much for third party. But
ain't no argument there. Let's be real.
But no. My thing is, third party is what gaming
is important. You wouldn't
it's
have
not,
all these.
It's not just important. Third party is
vital.
What the masses are playing,
right?
And I know people want to shortchange it, and we want to focus on certain titles, but understand the masses are playing Warzone. Let me
answer your question without you having to go through all that spiel. Microsoft tried to spend how many billions on Activision?
Mm-hmm.
How many billion they tried to spend? Was 64?
70.
70 billion on a third-party gaming company. If that don't tell you the value and the importance of third-party, they spent $7 billion on Bethesda. No, third party is very, very much important. Go ahead though. You said saying tie and impact.
Because I was saying tie. I'm leaning towards Sony, but every time I try to lean towards Sony, I start thinking about the impacts of Nintendo. So I'm not even going to give the nod to Sony. I'm gonna go down the middle because it's hard for me to do that. Even though I think some tremendous impacts have been done on the especially with the Blu-ray. I think that's huge. But Nintendo has some huge ones too. So I'm gonna go down.
Nia brought up one because I could have went tie too, and I'm finna bring you in, Keith. But Nia brought one up, and I didn't even think about it. Directs. Nintendo literally is where it spun us to where we at right now. Everybody laughed at them. Now E3 is dead, and it's all because of Nintendo. So, I'm gonna stick with Nintendo. Even though you make a good argument for a tie, K-Bum, I'm gonna stick with Nintendo on this one.
Yeah.
Mr. Norris.
Man, I thought I was going to be the only one. Thanks, K-Bum. I thought I was going to be the only one.
You should have went first.
Because when you go back, and I think are we calling it the crash of '85? when Nintendo came in with Donkey Kong and Star saving everything with Mario and stuff. When you think about how bad ET was, and they literally had to dump ET in a desert. I don't know if y'all haven't watched that
No,
documentary.
I've seen it. It's crazy.
It's
It's crazy,
pretty
bro.
good.
Amiibo.
But how Nintendo came in and kind of like reshaped the market and reshaped American gaming. Because I think Japan, I think they were still kind of thriving over there, which is over here that was just pretty bad because everybody was trying to be number one and try to put things out as fast as possible, and they crashed the market and nobody had trust. And Nintendo comes in with their games, say today with the Super Famicom, not Super Famicom, but the Famicom. And then they continued on, and then people started to be their competitors, Sega, Neo Geo, everybody started coming in, and then Sony comes in and they make their impact with the disc and the blue. And basically, what I'm getting at is, without these two, we wouldn't be gaming the way we're gaming today. Without
That's
that
true.
competition, without
That's
any of that going on, we would not be enjoying the games that we're enjoying now. Like Sony makes the most beautiful storied games,
emotion driven.
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
and you gotta give it, and honestly, you gotta give Nintendo credit for that because a lot of those developers probably played Nintendo's and was like, oh, I
Absolutely.
wish it was like this, and they made that. You know what I'm saying?
I
But
wish Zelda had voice acting.
we not gonna,
Well,
we
it
not
does
gonna
now.
do this. We not doing this.
It does
Zelda
now,
has
but-
voice acting. Link
Oh,
does
Lord
just
have
not
mercy.
have a voice. Okay, we're not doing this.
Lord have mercy.
But anyways, and you could, and K-Bone said this early in the very first conversation about innovation. Sony copied a lot of what Nintendo or just anybody was doing and made it better.
Absolutely. They
Thank
copied.
you, Sony. Thank you for copying and making things better. I appreciate that. Like honestly,
Nintendo
like,
learn to
let's-
do that, please. Please, Nintendo. Online
Thank you.
copy Microsoft and Sony.
Just
please,
copy.
Nintendo. Copy
Just
them. Copy paste. Hey,
just
Face.
hit the copy button.
take a Kodak picture and trace it. Please do something.
But yeah, I'm
That's
gonna
funny.
go down. I'm gonna go down the middle because I enjoy both, and I think they both have had a great impact on the industry that we all enjoy today. So I'm not even going to put them against each other.
Yeah. Good
So
point.
I'm going down the middle with a tie. I'm going to continue to champion Nintendo over Sony, but I'll be a fool to sit there and try to act like Sony's contributions to gaming are not as impactful or as important. I think they're both equally weighed for different reasons. I play Nintendo for certain reasons. I play Sony for certain reasons.
Hey, y'all
And-
making me change my. Y'all gonna make me change mine.
And I don't play
That's
Xbox
the
at all.
point of the debate, man. That's the point.
Because
We
y'all
have
making
this.
it is. Because I am torn. I'm torn on. Can I? Because Sony came in and just knocked gaming to a whole nother level. It went up. It went up. Like when Kanye said it's up, Sony took it up, right? And it took it to a whole nother playing field. And then Nintendo came and upped the ante with Blue Ocean. Then Sony turned around. Yeah, it's a tie. I'm gonna change.
But that's why Phil Spencer says we can't out console them, and it's not just good games because they don't have an actual market. I think they could have one, but they don't actually know what to do. And I think
It's
it
the
starts with
bro
games.
dude cop. It's the bro dude. That was their niche. The bro
Yeah.
dude.
They
Those
had
games.
the Dual Shock. They brought the Dual. Like we enjoying that because of Sony. They took what Nintendo offered with analog and said we gonna double it up, and that's when we got the Dual Shock. Yeah, it's a tie. They both been innovative. Mike, we got to give them credit for the camera The
Wow!
camera.
Look at leveled out here.
because they had the iToy. Is the iToy first before motion
Something like that,
controls?
yeah.
They had
Yeah,
the
something like that,
iToy,
yeah. It
which
was out
led
before
to
all that.
The Microsoft. What was they thing that they trying to watch your whole blood
Kinect.
pressure?
Connect.
Connect, yeah. It was disconnected. That's what happened. Anyway, so, all
Connectables.
right.
Rare. Oh my God. You got Rare making connectables. Man, come
So-
on. Hey.
So, Keith, you're up. So, let me explain. So, let me bring us up because this one is unique.
Okay.
It's a very unique one. And I thought it was relevant. So there's something my father said that I've never forgotten. But so far, innovation, K-Bum, Nintendo, shocking, Sony for Keith, Nintendo for me, sales, K-Bum, Sony, Keith, Nintendo, level tie, popularities, K-Bum, yours, you impact and popularity, you got a tie. That makes sense. I say Nintendo, I say, Keith saying Nintendo, I say Sony, first party Nintendo, third party Sony, valuable, K-Bum, you went with Sony, Keith went with Nintendo, I went with Nintendo, services was clearly Sony, impact, we all said a tie across the board. So, on this last one, my father said something, he said, when you know something is good, when it's able to reproduce its success over and over again.
That's true.
And that always stuck with me. He worked for Procter & Gamble. He used Procter & Gamble as an example. You know the line is running sufficient. I'm preaching, y'all, so y'all coming into my sanctuary a little bit. But I won't don't come up. I can't bring you to Christ right now. We talking about PlayStation. So let me stop. So when you're able, when the line is running sufficient, that's when you know that you're being successful. When you can get the line to reproduce and run sufficient and maintain its efficiency. Well, this question is around that. The ability to reproduce success. This is kind of one thought I took was, and Keith, you're going to go first here, is self-sustaining. It's able to sustain its own self. That was one of my thoughts. And all these variables all these factors go into this last topic. Who is number one at the ability of reproducing success? So Keith, the floor is yours. Who is number one in this category?
I knew this. I knew you weren't going to leave with this question not being asked.
No, I wasn't. This was my whole.
I knew this one was coming. Because I know we agree here, and I've already said it. I don't know which portion I said it on, but when Nintendo was getting their butt handed to them, and they weren't. I think it was the N64. When they weren't getting the games that they was getting, they lost Final Fantasy VII. They was losing all of those JRPGs because at that time, those developers were wanting to make bigger, badder JRPG games that they just couldn't fit on those tiny N64 cartridges. And they were losing a lot of third-party games because they just couldn't make them as fast as they normally would, or they wanted to, and they were able to make them faster on the PlayStation. And I think the N64 was the true turning point for Nintendo and their first-party IP. And that's not to say that they weren't doing great before with the NES and the SNES, because I love the SNES so much. But the third party started to vanish on the N64, so they had to really start doing it themselves. And Rare had to chip in and bring their blockbuster games too. So when I think about this is a real scenario for Nintendo, if third party was to lead Sony and Nintendo, who could sustain themselves the most? The answer is obvious, because Nintendo had to actually do it, whereas Sony, I can't even think about a lot of the first party games on the PlayStation 1. I think about Siphon Filter is one that comes to mind immediately, but I think about a lot of third party games that we consider third parties today, like the Metal Gear Solids, the Grand Theft Autos. I think about a lot of those games on the PlayStation versus Donkey Kong 64, Mario 64, Mario Kart 64, Zelda, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Jet Force Gemini. I could go down the list, and even Buck Bumble. Yeah, I said it, Buck Bumble. If you don't know what I'm talking about, that was on the N64. There's so many games that they had to just build on their own, and we're just talking about games. We're not even talking about movies, anything else. Nintendo had to stand on their own, and they had one dip, and that was the Wii U. But even those games still sold, and each time I believe Nintendo has been in the black when it comes to their console sales. I think the Wii U, I think, was the first time they may have lost money in development, or was it the Switch? I think it was Wii U. I think it was the first.
I think it's Wii U.
Yeah, the first time that they ever lost money. So they've been successful. Even then, they were still successful. The Wii U was what do they call it? Considered a failure, but even at the end of the day, they still was profitable. Even then, the GameCube, even though it was so like what 23, 24,
20 some million, about 20 million.
they were still profitable. So to me, for this company, and a lot of people was calling Nintendo's number like they need to go third party. They got to go away, so on and so forth. Nintendo just wouldn't go away. They can't go away because they're able to sustain themselves consistently over time. They may not be moving the same type of units as the other two or just the other one, but they've been consistent with maintaining their business, and it shows today. And now they're like Scrooge McDuck. They just rolling in the dough. They're just jumping in there, whatever. But I have to give that one to Nintendo all day, every day, hands down. And that's not to knock Sony, but they haven't been in that position, But Nintendo has
Kind
been
of
in
with
that
the
position.
PlayStation 3 they were, but I agree.
They were absolutely in that position.
They were.
Yeah,
They were.
they
I
were.
take that back. They were. I take it back.
But yeah. So Keith say Nintendo, K-Bum is your floor.
Okay, so I looked at this and I went back and forth because when we're talking about able to reproduce success, I look at Nintendo software, and I say they are absolutely able to reproduce success every single time. And I look at it, and again, it surprises me again because I'm not a Nintendo gamer. I don't go out of my way to buy Nintendo games. I don't go out of my way to buy Nintendo systems because they don't really appeal to how I like video games. I am a story-driven gamer. I've always been that. The original Prince of Persia is probably top 3 of one of the greatest games I've ever played. The Last of Us, Uncharted 2 is up there as well. So is The Witcher. They're all story-driven games. My favorite games are all story-driven. So I've never been a fan of Nintendo's game because I have to sit there and read. But we're talking about able to reproduce success. We're talking about software sales. Nintendo takes the cake. I mean, they console after console, year after year, when everyone else left the system, when third party said, "Peace, I'm out of here," Nintendo software, first party from in-house, still made the bucks, and they teleported the system as far as the Wii from the depths of the GameCube into a different stratosphere, and then the Switch, teleported them into another higher stratosphere when you saw the downfall of the Wii U. Right, profitable, yeah, but when you say disappointment, is they didn't meet the margin that they set for themselves. So when I look at that, it's Nintendo. But when I look at Sony, and I see that as far as complete console runs, the least amount of consoles that they've ever sold is 87 million consoles. That's it. That's the lowest. The PS5 has been out for less than 3 years. Is at 38, and for more than half, or 2/3 of that, it was shortages. But it's still running. It has time. It's sitting at 38, 40. But as far as complete console runs, the worst you did was 87 million. To me, that's success. People buy, and Keith, you said it. You said people buy PlayStations because it's consistent. It's consistent. You are going to get the Maddens. You're going to get the third party support. And the PS3, and we kind of stated the PS3. If you remember, they lost their third party exclusive. Ooh, that word's gonna kick my butt. Let me not try that. The exclusive games that was on the PS2. Remember, Xbox went and bought GTA. Remember, I forgot the guy name. He had the GTA tattoo on his arm for the E3 because it was coming to the Xbox because they paid them $50 million to put on Xbox. The PS3 lost that. It was only a Sony title until then. Devil May Cry was only a Sony title until the 360 PS3. Metal Gear Solid was only on the PS3. I mean, I know they had the Twin Snakes, but that was long after the game came out. But it was at launch. It was only a Sony system. And during the Sony's lowest point, where they lost the third-party exclusive games that they had, they still sold 87 million copies. And remember, even in that time, the development companies were not even trying to make the game playable on the PS3. Valve, when they had the Orange Box, if you remember, Valve on the Orange Box, they did not program the PS3 version of the Orange Box. They gave it to another studio and told them to develop the Orange Box on the PS3. Valve didn't even waste their time to learn the PS3, and it still sold 87 million. When I think of able to reproduce success, I do, and we do have to talk about the elephant in the room. The Vita counteracts that whole topic I just said, because the Vita did not reproduce the success of the PSP. It was absolutely garbage, and it burned.
An outlier that undermines the argument to a degree. So you don't have.
I'm being honest here. I'm just being open and honest.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not just smoking up.
Wii U. You got. You got the Virtual Boy. So
that's some flops in there.
Yeah,
I agree. But when I talk about consistency, and I see the consistency, it is to me it's Sony, and even looking at the consistency of the quality of their first party games, they're all of quality. They're like I said, maybe a miss or two, but the majority of the first part, all the Ratchets and the Uncharted, even though 3 wasn't the best. All the other Uncharted are all been a quality. The Last of Us have been a quality. The Crash, when they had it at that point in time, was of quality. So to me, I think if you're strictly software, it is Nintendo by far. But when if I look at the bigger picture and I try to look at consoles and how they're able to reproduce it every year, and you can guarantee you're going to get all the third party support year to year. Some of it they're paying for it, as we see under the table, but you're still going to get that third party. Even when they did have to suffer through losing their exclusive third parties, they still was able to be successful. So I do have to give that to Sony. So that's my stance.
Okay. So, would you finna say something, Keith?
No, I'm just saying no.
Okay. So when I think about this subject, this tier or this category, both have reproduced success. So Sony definitely deserves a hat tip, because you see what Microsoft going through, but when I look at it, there are still so many variables that gotta happen for Sony to reproduce it. Like right now, they fighting like heck to keep Call of Duty from being purchased by, or Activision to be purchased by Microsoft, because that will, if they made that exclusive, that will hurt their ability to reproduce their success. So they need certain things to help them do it. And right now, it's all there for them to do it, so they're able to do it. But they have more pillars, and if you hit they have more pillars holding their thing up than Nintendo. Nintendo is, and that's why I think it's Nintendo. Nintendo ain't even flinch at the sale of Activision. Didn't even sniffle. Nintendo is not even worried about third party. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. Shadow Fox, don't get in there and start praising me yet. That's not good overall, because they should care about third party. They should want quality third party and one-to-one third party, as Sony and Microsoft get.
Absolutely.
But in this category, they don't need it. And that's why I believe Nintendo wins here, because they don't need nothing but themselves. Sony needs third party. they spend the money showing that they need it. Because with that, so they got to spend money. They spend a lot of money losing money, but they end up over time making up as the parts in the system begins to be cheaper, and so they're gonna lose money out the gate. But as the generation goes, Sony recuperates money, whereas Nintendo, they have created a thing that makes money out the gate and throughout the generation. Yeah, they get teased for their graphics power and all the stuff. They endure it. Look at the Switch. Terrible online. Lord knows it's the worst online. I think it's worse than the Wii U. I haven't, like Dia said, I downloaded the app and immediately deleted it and haven't looked back. We've been using Discord, all this. But like Keith said, I have to have the Switch. I have to have Nintendo because of I can get that nowhere else. Now, don't get me wrong. I got to get my Kratos experience. I want my Nathan Drake. I don't know if they're going to make another one, but you can get some of those experiences from third-party titles that mirror them, like Lara Croft.
Not on the Switch.
Not on the Switch. I'm talking about on PlayStation. I'm saying Nintendo, you can get it nowhere else. You cannot get the Nintendo experience anywhere else. If I don't play...
only thing I want to say, I know we're using hypotheticals to kind of prove
so I think
Nintendo's point, but it's hypothetical if third party goes away. When we say able to reproduce success, that's not based on hypotheticals. That's based on facts and what we've seen. And so I know you guys kind of use that to kind of prove you guys' points, but that's based on a hypothetical.
But I'm not using a hypothetical. I'm not using a hythetical. We see.
No, you talked about pillars. No, you talked about pillars. You said there's more pillars to knock down.
But listen to me.
That's based on the hypothetical.
You're seeing the hypothetical play out real time. It just they're trying to keep it from happening. That's why I use Call of Duty and Activision. Sony is actively trying to keep that from falling because that's a pillar for them. They spend buku dollars to be the first to promote it and market it because it plays a factor in their success, and they're trying to keep that where you don't see Nintendo even flinch at it. They don't flinch. They didn't sweat. You didn't hear a comment from them about Activision being bought. But Sony is crying and suing and trying to block it because it's vital to them. It is not even a concern for Nintendo. That to me shows who is more able to reproduce.
Not able, who has reproduced. I'm saying able to reproduce, and again, it does go into hypothetical.
We playing.
I understand. I'm gonna say this point, and I'm gonna back up because it's not even my turn to talk. It's not even my turn to talk, so I'm gonna let you finish your point. I'm jumping in on your conversation, so I'm doing wrong. So I'm gonna slap myself on the wrist.
I got you.
Let me go ahead and step all the way back and let you finish your point because there's no need for me to jump into and interject my points into your statement. Please continue.
My point is, and I'm almost done, and we wrap it up, that this is where, to me, Nintendo succeeds is Nintendo needs no one but themselves. Sony cannot rely on, and like I said, it is hypothetical, but we're seeing the possibilities playing out before our eyes, and they're trying to keep a hypothetical from becoming a reality. Sony does not, by no means, want to lose Call of Duty. And between Sony and Nintendo, you see Sony crying. You see Sony writing letters. You see what y'all was talking about today, all the stuff that's coming out. You see Sony spending the money to ensure this third party, to ensure this. That's why a lot of them don't even play ball with Nintendo because Nintendo won't play ball back. They won't spend the money. They like, I don't need it. I go make Wii Sports. I go do this. I go do that. Now, I ain't saying they shouldn't.
They should play ball. They should spend the money.
I'm not saying they shouldn't, K-Bum. I'm with you. We agree there. I said it earlier. Nintendo. Go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
No, I had a thought, but this the wrong podcast when you said they won't spend the money.
Oh, okay. But We ain't going down that lane, Keith. But my point is, Nintendo should spend money. They should, because they have it. So I'm not disagreeing with you.
Oh, they have it.
They have it. But
They have it.
but the fact that they know they don't really irks these third-party companies and these other companies outside.
But see, I jump on that because I jump on that. I'm sorry, I'm jumping back on it because my thing. I know when Nintendo people say this about they don't need third party, they don't need third. No, I mean I understand when people say that, but what irks me is that Nintendo should be trying to offer.
I agree.
Every game that it can to their consumers. To me, this is a disservice to their consumers their consumers have to go to a whole nother console in order to play those games that everyone else is enjoying. I just want to say that because I know people use that, but it irks the crap out of me when people use that.
I'm with you. It does. I think it's. I'm gonna get you in here, Keith. I think it's lame that they do it, but you gotta acknowledge. Like I'm acknowledging that you're right. I think they should. I think it's a disservice to all of us who buy their systems that they're able to get away with this. It is. It's wrong. It's counter-consumer, anti-consumer. But you also got to acknowledge that they are in a unique position to be able to say we don't have to. No, I feel like both are true. So, but go ahead, Keith.
Yeah, I know the argument all too well, and I understand K-Bon's position when he says that. But when we say, I'm coming from a Nintendo fan perspective here. When we say they don't need third party, we're not saying we don't want the third party games. We want them.
I know you don't say that because you got PlayStation and Xboxes. I know that's not what you're saying. All the people saying they got Xboxes and PlayStation.
but the point is, it's like when we're talking about being able to reproduce success, they don't actually need them. They definitely could use them for sure, and we want them on there. You know what I'm saying? We want to be able to, especially at the Wii U era. I wanted them so bad, like the real good ones, but they were still successful without them, and that's the point. Is they don't need them, if that makes sense.
Right? They are so sufficient with their own titles and own. They don't. I mean, yeah. Do I wish the Switch was more powerful? Do I wish the Wii U would have did right? Absolutely. But come on, bro. You ain't getting no pushback here. But the thing is, Nintendo, and I think Keith, you hit it on the nail, and K-Bum, you somewhat talked about it, and Sony kind of started it. What you seeing with Sony. And I think they need to continue it, and they can be in a better driver's seat too. Is when the PlayStation 3, when Sony experienced their first trailing behind another platform, especially the Wii, and then the Microsoft. That's when you got Uncharted 2. Sony first party start bussing, and that's what led to them. They start figuring out their cell processor. They start proving the worth of that system to the point. PlayStation 3 is one of my favorite systems of all time. That generation, it was not the Wii. I love the 360. It was the PlayStation 3, and it was Uncharted and all them first-party Sony titles that made me understand Sony is tapping into movie cinema experiences that you can get nowhere else. But they don't do that as much as Nintendo with their first party to the point that they can come self-sustaining, whether, if I don't feel like playing you for marketing, if I don't want to give you all this money to get your game over here, I can still move forward, move my systems, and EA, you can shove it. They can't do that. Nintendo can. Nintendo can say, EA, I'm not playing ball with you. You're not putting whatever that thing they wanted to put on the Wii U. They didn't play ball. Yeah, the Wii U failed, but they had their handheld. Then they came back with the Switch. EA ain't been there. No Maddens, no nothing. Old FIFAs. Nintendo, it doesn't matter because they're going to give you that Mario, that Smash Brother, that Mario Odyssey, that Zelda, that Donkey Kong, that Animal Crossing, and that's going to sell their systems for $125 million. and they can look at EA, Ubisoft, and all of them say, yeah, y'all gave us y'all leftovers, and our gamers will go over there and play that, but they coming here for this. Whereas Sony, yes, I get it for Kratos, I get it, but I also get it for the third parties. And if it ain't enough,
that's what makes Sony consistent.
But they can't sustain it without input. No, but the point is,
third-party games on the system and people buying your system to play third-party games
I agree.
is able to reproduce success because you have.
But who is able to do it better? The point is better. Not. I said they both. I said at the beginning. Both Sony and Microsoft.
I don't want to. I'm not gonna jump on your point. I mean, that's your opinion. So I'll let you have it.
Both Sony and Microsoft are producing success. They're producing profit. The point is, who is able to do it better? Sony is showing you that they need these things to do it. Nintendo showing you they don't. It doesn't benefit me as a consumer to say it. I hate that Nintendo does that, but I gotta acknowledge that they can. See what I'm saying? That's on the point. I gotta acknowledge that they can.
When you say that to some of the other they've had those titles. I'm not going to debate your point. I'm gonna step back. I'm not going to debate your point. You say Nintendo, then it's Nintendo. I'm not going to debate your point. I'll step back.
So, no. Like I said, like Nia said, I think I know what you arguing for, K-Bum, and I agree with you. It's a different argument, but it's a relevant argument. If we was talking about should Nintendo do it, just like should Nintendo, and maybe we need to create.
Well, I'm not even pointing on the Nintendo piece.
Let's do another tier.
That's not even the piece.
No,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say let's do another podcast where we say should they.
This is already 11 o'clock long.
No, not tonight. I said for another podcast, let's create a should they or shouldn't they, who doing things they shouldn't do the most, and we can add not playing with her. But my point is, Nintendo should be playing ball, especially now with the money that they have and the success of the Switch. Nintendo should be playing ball with third party to get the Maddens and all that. They would win. They would, man, if they got Madden and Call of Duty and all those third party titles,
you wouldn't need a PlayStation.
You wouldn't need a PlayStation and
PlayStation. That's the point.
And they will be losing.
Well, online you probably still have to worry about.
Yeah. But that's so. Your argument is valid, and I agree. Because as a consumer, I wouldn't have. I'm still buying a PlayStation if the power is there. I'm going to buy the PlayStation over the Switch because it's behind. If they continue that model, but what I'm saying is Nintendo has created a space that's unique in gaming to themselves. You don't see it with neither Microsoft nor Sony, and they are the only ones that can do that. That's what I'm saying, and that's their success is in of themselves. They need no one outside of them to do it. Whereas Sony needs third party and other variables to continue to do it, and they are able to do it, but they need all these things to do it.
That's the strong point, though. I understand. We laid out the strong points, and just pointing out Sony's weak spot and saying that because Nintendo is stronger in that point, that's their strong point. That's their equivalent weak point. Now that's why I don't strictly say, this is more able to reproduce success because this is their weak point versus their strong point. I look at the fact that they've been able to reproduce success with what they do have. And that's why my argument is Sony, because we've seen Nintendo go up and down as far as some of their successes, but we haven't seen Sony go down. We haven't seen the worst PlayStation we've seen was 87 million. And so when I think of able to reproduce success, I see the consistency. But I see even with, third party, first party with Nintendo, I see the variations of their success. And so that's why I have a little disagreement, but we all have our fair point.
You got what I meant. And I would say this, K-Bum, you're right. On home consoles, Sony has been consistent. But like I said, we oftentimes only focus on a home. Nintendo has been making buku. That's what I'm saying. Some of what they don't get credit because while they handheld is making selling 80, 90 million, they home console may sell 30, 40. But altogether, that's 130 pieces of hardware and games that they can sell on. So they making bucks. So
I agree.
So what Neil said right there is basically what I'm saying. Sony needs others to replicate their success and Nintendo doesn't at this point doesn't, and I think that's what gives Nintendo the edge, that they don't need others to replicate their success. That's my point.
They just need y'all to go out and buy Animal Crossing.
Yeah. So with that being said, so let's tally it up, and we're gonna get out of here. So K-Bum, Nintendo for innovation. Sales is Sony. Popularity, K-Bum surprised me here, was a tie. First party, no surprise, Nintendo. Third party, no surprise, PlayStation. Valuable, worth, PlayStation. Services, absolutely PlayStation. And K-Bum, you show a model of consistency. Impact, you say tie. So your popularity and impact is the same. And then you say able to reproduce, you say Sony. So all together, K-Bum is Sony. But I like the fact that you gave Nintendo they nod. Okay, Keith. Keith was tripping with this first one. Keith, you was tripping here.
Bro, we still use everything that the PlayStation 1 introduced.
I'm messing. I was just shocked by this. I was so shocked with you. So Keith, innovation, Sony. Sales, Nintendo. Popularity, Nintendo. First party, Nintendo. Third party, Sony. Valuable, Nintendo. Services, Sony. Impact, tie. Reproduce, Nintendo. So all together, pretty balanced, but Nintendo won out for Keith. So level, innovation, Nintendo. Sales, tie. Popularity, Sony. First party, Nintendo. Third party, Sony. Valuable, Nintendo. Services, Sony. Impact, tie. Reproduction, Nintendo. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. If it wasn't for these two ties, I would have been even. But it could go either way. So I think Nintendo, for me, by one category nudges out Sony. But what y'all saw is, and I'm gonna let these fellas talk, is that both these councils or these companies have been serving us really well in gaming. Between these two, you really don't need a third, to be honest with you. And there your Microsoft slander right there. But this let me know how much I respect Sony and what they have brought to the table, as well as Nintendo. And I even get to see that even with K-Bum, he respects what Nintendo has brought to the table, while seeing Sony as leading the pack as the true number one. And the same for Keith. It's just respect there, and I like that. But I'm going to let y'all chime in. Thank you, Nia. She said great conversation. It seemed like y'all enjoyed it because y'all stayed with us all night. Keith, what's your thoughts? And then K-Bum, you can come in after him.
Man, absolutely great conversation, man. I love everybody that was talking in the chat, man. Y'all was keeping us honest. And, you know, spin your own. So, but no, both of these companies deserve the praise that they get. Sony absolutely deserves the praise and the sales numbers that it always gives and consistently gets, because it does offer an overwhelmingly overall platform. But for me personally, Nintendo still holds my heart with a lot of their games. Their games just speak to me on a different level than what Sony does. Gameplay wise, I mean, I'm in there playing Pikmin of all things. Like, I look at Pikmin, I'm like, what? Really? It's so good. Anyways, but like I said, I respect what both of these companies do, and I look forward to seeing the many more things that they come. And Nintendo got a new platform coming. I can't wait to see what that's about. Sony's gonna come give us some more first party classics. Yeah, I said it, first party classics. And they're gonna keep doing their thing after these court proceedings. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what Microsoft gonna do. You know what I'm saying? They want to fight in court instead of just trying to fight with these games. They got one of the greatest developers out there in Rare, even though it ain't the same people, but the IP still exists. You know what I'm saying? They still have the IP, and you got people who grew up playing those games who would love to take a crack at those games, but they'd rather make Sea of Thieves. So Yeah,
no
I
more
had to get
Microsoft slander. We
Shay.
already got
had
knocked
to-
off the air already. Let's not have no more slander.
Look,
for
I
Microsoft.
had to do it because look, we even though we went back and forth about Sony and Nintendo, but we can't. I said Nintendo, but we still walked away with respect for both of them. So
Right.
yeah, I had to give a little Xbox slander because these two companies are fighting the way it's supposed to be fought. Even though they've been exposing Sony, and I'm pretty sure somebody can expose Nintendo as well. But dude, that's the way we're supposed to do it. It's all about the game services and stuff like that. That's all we care about. All this other stuff they over there doing, this green team over here fighting in the court. Well, I don't care about that. I'm not watching that stuff.
The green team.
But all respect to Sony and Nintendo.
So I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna give it to K-Bum. Spider-Man owes a lot of his success and popularity to Sunset Overdrive, because that's the model that made that helped Spider-Man become Spider-Man. People don't. If you go play Sunset Overdrive, you understand why Spider-Man is so good. People slept on that game. That game, really, a lot of the tools, a lot of the gameplay was a bridge off of Sunset Overdrive. But go ahead, K-Bum.
Yeah, no, man. So we had a good time. I had a better time than I thought I was gonna have. See, what y'all don't see is y'all don't see the heated conversations we have in our group chat.
That's for us, man. That ain't for them.
Yeah, you guys see the refined, researched,
Facts.
polished conversations that we have out in front of y'all. But I mean, blows are being thrown
All day.
I mean, personal
Keith be grabbing
jabs.
popcorn, man. Like,
I mean, people got a dug. There's punches thrown everywhere in that private chat. So I'm happy you guys get a good one. So no, but I said that to say that I was very happy to see Level be complete, be really fair when it comes to both parties. Even changing his stance on a couple of things and being honest and keep being devil's advocate for some reason, but still giving his point.
yeah, I'm still
on
lost
the
on that first one.
but he still had his own personal perspective, and and we were able to do what you normally can't do on a podcast, is to have disagreeable conversations without name calling, frustration, wanting to throw hands, calling somebody out their name, swearing, cussing, or getting upset because you said something bad about my favorite console, right? That's something that you don't normally get on a podcast. So I'm happy you guys were able to be here and enjoy this moment with us and keep that comment section rolling. So I enjoyed myself today, and I hope you guys did too.
Okay. So as y'all can see, we had a good time. Now let me say this: if y'all really enjoyed it, and it seemed like y'all did, because we might just start doing unique things like this. I enjoyed the tears. I enjoyed putting So if y'all got some other topics that y'all want us to do a similar cast like this, where we discuss it, we'll research, we get our facts together, and we'll come back with another one. Y'all give us some ideas, and we'll come back maybe. Who has done the most stupidest things in gaming industry? Microsoft, is that more Microsoft slander? Anyway,
we gotta bring them in.
Okay.
Hey, Microsoft versus Sega.
Right.
Oh yeah, bring Sega in.
So give us some ideas in the comment section, and make sure y'all share this. We got hit. I don't know what happened, but we had the sound issue. Then we got, for whatever reason, shut down. Like the Nintendo ninjas came through, but we made it through this one, man. We gave y'all about almost 2.5, 3 hours because we had so many hiccups. But we about to get out of here, man. So this was the Live and Level Gamers podcast. Till next time, shouts out to Nia, first name basis. Shadow Fox, thank you for dropping through, bro, keeping us company. Bro. It's all right to give other people some shine every now and then. Let Sonic live, man. Stop throwing Sonic down so hard, man. But shout out to you, Shadow Fox. Who else is up in here? Keith, why you up in the comment section? Oh, I know why you. But anyway, I want to get. It was a lot of people in here on tonight. Fred was up in here. Shout out to
DJ.
Fred. Chariot Man, DJ Fanatic, First Name, aka First Name Basis. Alan Steve was up in this joint. Man, there's so many comments on today. Fred 215 slap yourself. Fred 215. Shout out to you and all the rest of y'all. Where was my Miss DK at?
Raging Banana wasn't here.
Yeah, where's she at? She wasn't up in here. Well, anyway, shout out to all of y'all. We'll be back hopefully next week, same time, same place, bringing y'all that unique, wholesome, clean entertainment. That way y'all can listen, don't have to worry about your kids and anything like that. But this is your boy Level, Keith Norris, K-Bum 20 signing out. Till next time, deuces!
But we got smashed, bro. But we got smashed, bro. But we got smashed, bro.